Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Check out my comics at KingComics.CA. Check out my YouTube channel, King Comics 2021. Check me out on Instagram, MaximusRex13, or on Facebook, either Big Baby or Max Rex. So today is Dale Keown Day, guys. We're looking at the next issue from his pit run from the early 90s at Image. This is issue number 5, cover dated June 1994. Starting with the cover, not much to write home about. Not one of his best covers, either as Dale Keown the artist or just as, you know, a cover for the PITT series, honestly. Just feels like he didn't have any kind of cool ideas for this cover or needed to get it done quickly. So, you know, nothing very iconic. You know, if you have never read this comic and you see this, I don't know exactly what you would think about it. It's more of a designy kind of piece, I guess. It's like, hey, Pitt's, you know, he's got big claws and he's got, you know, scary looking eyes, and let's just create kind of 2 layers that show that. He does use this old trick that he was doing a lot in some of the panels in the Incredible Hulk run that we reviewed earlier from the late 80s, early 90s that he did. So the kind of the black negative space in the back here with the hatching fading outwards, you know, with a bit of color there. He used that as a design element in a lot of panels in the Hulk. You know, in panels where there's no background, but you want to create a little bit more interest. It uses a bit of splatter here, and I'm just going to say overall, it just feels like this was kind of a rush job for the cover, at least. You know, I do think Dale Keown is an awesome illustrator. I love his artwork, but kind of misses it a little bit on the cover here. That's all I got to say about that. So let's crack her open, have a look inside. All right, so we're going to start to establish basically this big super team in there. But let me, you know, I should hit the credits real quick just to remind everyone. Story and art by Dale Keown, script Brian Houghton, colors Joe Chiodo, and lettering Chris Eliopoulos, color separations Ollie Optics. Yeah, so Dale Keown slowly but surely, but in this issue, really establishing this super team that's kind of monitoring Pitt and his activities. So this lady here, Bobby, also called Reiki, I guess that's her code name. They're all kind of, you know, going to be introduced here. Just want to point out that this character here does remind me a lot of Dragon Ring in his design. You know, some of the designs here, are reminiscent of stuff that he was doing in Dragon Ring. That's before he was on the Incredible Hulk for Aircell Comics up here in Canada. So, you know, you've got the quick intro of her to this character meeting up and then, you know, meeting the rest of the gang, basically. Nice splash page here with an insert panel. So again, storytelling is still pretty strong from Dale Keown. He has gone a bit imagified his art, I guess is maybe how you can describe it. And he's pulled it back on the number of panels and stuff, but I still feel like he's doing pretty well in the storytelling bit. And, you know, when he does a splash page or a big image, it's not like it sucks either, right? It's fun to look at. So yeah, so I do get this kind of weird Pantheon vibe from these guys. You know, Dale Keown had just been working on the Incredible Hulk, and Peter David was introducing the Pantheon, at least in those last at least 10 issues, I think, that Dale Keown was on. So he worked on that a bit. So I feel like he's kind of following in those footsteps here. A lot of the Image guys, I feel like they kind of copied a lot of the tropes that had been introduced in their comics at Marvel, right? And sometimes with other writers, and introduced those in the Image world. So that's kind of what I feel like Dale Keown is doing here. He's doing, you know, a more extreme version of the Hulk with Pitt. So he's doing a more extreme version of Pantheon with these guys. And it's, you know, not like they really hit the mark. This character really looks like she belongs in Dragon Ring. I don't know. This almost doesn't even... This looks more 80s than 90s in a weird way. But, you know, it's the typical... One thing with Image is, you know, they introduce so many teams and so many characters with no backstories or not much characterization or not much reason to care for them, really. You know, Dale Keown here at this point at Image is just introducing yet another super team, right? So Rob Liefeld's got Youngblood, Brigade, Bloodstrike, right? There's probably some I'm missing there. Newman, even though he didn't create that, right? Mark Silvestri has Cyberforce and Strike Force, and Jim Lee has, you know, Wildcats, is it Stormwatch? There's a few others, Gen 13, right? So Image really threw in, you know, in the market, threw in a glut of like team characters and that same kind of, you know, team composition, the girl, the guy. You know, this guy's basically Cyclops, right? This guy's like the big bruiser guy, the Hulk. You know, basically another analog to the Hulk. You know, looks kind of like the Abomination as well. So I don't feel like Dale Keown's going too far here in his inspiration for these characters. You know, this guy really does look a lot like the Abomination. And his name is Sorass, or Saurus. But Sorass, I think, is hilarious. If you know, again, you know how I am with pronunciation stuff, but I will continue to think that his name is Soras, and leave it at that. We got our kind of, you know, Professor X type character, of course, so, you know, nothing really original with this team here. And again, not the PITT that himself, the character, is that original, but he does kind of stand out in his design, as opposed to these guys who are just kind of very generic, just like Pantheon. Yeah, so the storyline, they're talking about how they monitored the whole situation, but couldn't intervene. They were too far away by hacking into a government satellite, I believe. And here, well, we get the aftermath of last issue. So Timmy, you know, has gone into kind of a coma, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with him. He's lost his hair and stuff. So all from effects of his, I guess, psychic attack towards Zoivod last issue, and the fact that the consciousness that's bonded to his brain, right, is Garib, I believe it's called, some alien kind of psychic ability alien kid, is inside Timmy's brain with him. Get some brooding shots, very 90s, of PITT on the side of a building. You know, that all started with Batman, and then everyone kind of adopted that, I guess. You know, a common trope with the superheroes and the super beings is that they kind of tower above us. You know, Frank Miller talked a lot about that in some of his comics, how they, you know, they almost fly above us on these rooftops. I mean, obviously some superheroes literally fly, but there's something about the superhero that, like, you know, some weird wish fulfillment for people, not just to fly, but to rise above others, right? There's like this need to differentiate yourself from the pack, you know, as much as, you know, if you're into that kind of storytelling and tropes, the superhero stuff, you may not have realized a lot of it is that for sure, right? So as PITT is brooding over and kind of protecting Timmy at the hospital, we get this girl walking down the street, and we get another, you know, gang of mischievous, I don't even want to say mischievous, but in this case, obviously, you know, rapists is clearly what seems to be going on, mugging and raping. So Dale Keown, just, again, just the easy trope of the gang of men. He's used basically in every issue from the beginning here. You know, I'm not going to go through the list because I think I did last issue, but like every issue, PITT's just taking on a gang of men who have wronged a woman. Not that that's bad, but you know what I mean? Like, it's, I mean, it's getting tired by this point, I would say. You know, let's try to spice it up with something a little bit different. I guess that's what he's trying here, because what you'll see later is who the victim actually is, right? And that'll come into play in the story. So great splash here. There's something here akin to, you know, this is the first time I kind of noticed it, but, you know, PITT is kind of Lobo-ish, right, in his design. And, you know, I never really considered that, but it's almost like now I can see it's like Lobo and Hulk put together is basically PITT, and just take his nose off. Even the way the coloring his skin at this point, it seems like PITT starts going from kind of more of a skin tone to more of a gray tone, slowly but surely across a few issues here. But yeah, so PITT saves this victim, as I said, and as he walks away and just kind of leaves her there, she turns into a werewolf, and I guess attacks or kills these men here. And I've brought this up before, this design of the werewolf that we're going to see more of. Some cool shots of PITT here, but I'll just turn the page to get to the really good bits. Yeah, great splash here. Double page splash. At least he gave us one insert panel for some storytelling. And I mean, kind of a cool shot too, of the werewolf just kind of snapping its mouth all the way around PITT's head. But this design, I found out by doing some Dragon Ring reviews, because I hadn't read those comics back in the day, and now as an adult, got a few copies of those, did some reviews, and realized that this werewolf design is something that a lot of artists do this, but Dale Keown brought back from those days. So if you go back to those Dragon Ring comics, there's one issue in particular that I reviewed. I can't remember the number exactly. There's only a few of them. And I'm pretty sure it appears possibly on the cover. Anyways, this werewolf design was 100% pretty much the same. He's tweaked it a little bit and maybe imagified it and made it a little more extreme, but this is basically the werewolf design he did in Dragon Ring, just a different color. Again, the blue for a werewolf, I remember back in the day kind of thinking it's odd, but at the same time, it does make it stand out somewhat from other werewolves. There's something a little bit different there, even though I feel like Underworld kind of does the bluey movies, right? They ended up doing kind of bluish werewolves. Maybe they got the inspiration from this. I don't know, but I think it works and kind of is cool, making it kind of different and adds a weird creepiness to it, I guess, that I like. But I wonder whose decision it is, because looking at these pages here, once again, this is Joe Chiodo coloring, so like blue and orange dominate pretty much every page. Not always, but listen, it's pretty obvious here, right? So was that once again, Joe Chiodo saying, "Oh, great, if I make the werewolf blue, it's going to allow me to use a lot of orange in the background." It makes sense in the way, I've noticed his coloring patterns over the issues of PITT and Cyberforce. Another example here of that thing he did on the cover that he did in Incredible Hulk, kind of creating these dark spaces and just hatching out from them to create some background interest, I guess is how I would describe it. Here's another example of it where I'll just go back because I was thinking of it as we were going past it and I forgot to mention it. So just real quick, because it came to mind. Yeah, he uses it quite a bit. He's got the same kind of idea here, kind of reversed, where the black is on this side and maybe on that side, than it is here, where it's from black fading into or hatching out to and back to another black space. Again, he used this a lot on Incredible Hulk. And I mean, look at the artwork. There's nothing, I mean, I'm not going to complain about it, certainly. It's looking pretty cool all the way through if what you're into is monster slugfests. And I really do feel like that's what PITT is. It's kind of like a monster comic with, some superhero elements, sci-fi elements thrown in. But, ultimately it feels like Dale Keown just feels like drawing big monsters punching each other, which he does very well, right? The shadowing on this werewolf here and the choice of where he puts it is just, love it. Mixed in with a little bit of that illustrative hatching he does, just looks great. Gotta assume he maybe used some white medium here. So that's a pretty classic, iconic image of PITT. I think we've seen before, either on like advertisements or on a t-shirt or something, right? That's an easy one to black out the word balloon here, the phylactery, and just use as a cool shot for promo. It shows off all of Keown's strengths, right? The hatching, the anatomy, big monster, right? And I mean, this fight overall, I would say, is pretty darn cool visually. I certainly wouldn't complain. A little too, again, once the Joe Chiodo's really going crazy with the blue and the orange. I wish he'd tone it back at least a little bit. It starts to become kind of distracting in a weird way. I don't know what else to say, but there is that. I'm sure I mentioned this before. How the male gaze, aged, puberty to like 50 is very much attracted by oranges and blues, but this is kind of bringing it to a much too extreme level, I think, at least now. Maybe because I'm getting older and I'm less into orange and blue. I don't know. Yeah, so I mean, every issue of PITT does move the story along somewhat, but they're fairly short kind of blips of storytelling. So PITT realizes that all along the werewolf he was fighting is actually the victim that he was trying to save earlier. And of course, because it's a movie, because it's a comic, because it's entertainment, right? Not like real life. Things happen pretty conveniently, and of course the splash kind of establishes that these Pantheon wannabes, I forget what their names are. This guy is Soras, I'll remember that for sure. And this guy, I didn't mention it earlier, but his name is Kite. So I guess because he floats and flies around. I don't know, man. When you're starting to base your superheroes on kites, you're kind of running out of ideas, I feel. Maybe Dale Keown is into kiting, so I don't want to insult him in any way. Maybe that's just, or kitists out there, great if you're into that. But to have an actual superhero based on that, I just feels kind of odd to me. And not just that his name is Kite, but of course it's the 90s, so it's not K-I-T-E, but K-Y-T-E, of course. K-Y-T-E, not an intentional lube joke. Pretty cool kind of introduction of the characters to PITT, though, here. The hand in the foreground. I guess this is a thing, a theme in this issue. The hand in the foreground here on the cover. Keown had a thing for hands in this issue. But yes, still an amazingly drawn issue overall. Keown inking himself in here, so definitely the best art when it comes to his stuff is when he inks himself, and any artist really. It's just, I've rarely seen a case where that's not the case. And that's to be continued. So I'm just curious because, you know, I did do the count off with the other issues, so I'll just see how many pages we have here. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20 pages. So I'm assuming we got the ad here because this should have been, you know, on that side, or, you know, it turns to a double page spread, right? So they had no choice but to put something there. They had 22 pages. Maybe that would have worked out. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, because the comic would have ended here. But yeah, so they had to do a bit of fudging around with the ads to make the page count work. Not the end of the world, but as I've said, you know, I did like that Image put all their ads at the end, and it definitely helped with the flow of the story when you read it, when the ads weren't interrupting the artwork. This story is pretty cool. These guys live in a world where dinosaurs kind of roam the streets. I guess it's some weird post-apocalyptic dinosaur hellhole, and they're just trying to get home, and they're escaping dinosaurs. There's guys shooting at the dinosaurs, shooting at them. The artwork is pretty cool. I think it's very kind of Corbin influenced. I'd have to go back and look, at least give out the guy's name. Who in the credits? Outer Worlds, creator writer Brian Houghton, artist colors Goran Delic, and lettering Chris Eliopoulos. So I guess Dale Keown helping out one of his buddies. Pretty fun stuff. They find a way. They light like a fire that pushes away the dinosaurs, and then just basically end up as they get home in the safe zone, some wandering dinosaur, you know, before they're able to get safety, actually gets in and rips off his arm. It's a weird kind of story. I don't know what to think of that, but the artwork's pretty interesting. Oh, this is, yeah, Wildcats, the animated series. Pretty sure this is like not Jim Lee. Someone kind of trying to do Jim Lee animated. But here, this look here is kind of what Jim Lee created originally for the animation and the guides. So it's a kind of toned down, less detailed, hatchy kind of Jim Lee style, which kind of is cool. It's fun to see, right? And I would understand that he would tone it down a bit for animation, because his style would be really hard to animate. But if you've ever seen this cartoon, it is, I gotta say, horrible. The quality is shit. The animation is shit. It's just really bad all around. So, you know, as much time as they spend kind of promoting it here, I think they devote like 6-8 pages. We've got 2, 4, 6 here, 7 pages to it, right? And as great as the designs look here, right? This series just is horrible. If anyone out there has seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, you can probably check it out on YouTube. Check it, like, you know, the intro, or, you know, an episode or two somewhere. Just, yeah, not worth your time, I would say. Definitely just a cash grab for Jim Lee here. But hey, they sure did promote the fuck out of it. Boof is a weird one. I may have talked about this before. Not quite sure what McFarlane was going for, what market he was trying to corner. Kind of funnier, cartoony animal comics or something. I'm not quite sure. It's a weird kind of thing to have within his studio, as opposed to, you know, Spawn and stuff. But I guess his idea was maybe to reach a different market than what Spawn was going for. Knowing McFarlane, that's probably the impetus or the idea behind it. And then, of course, when the comics market crashed, which is pretty soon, or in around this time, it's starting to, at least, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, Boof is definitely gonna get taken off the schedule pretty quickly. And I mean, Pitt's doing pretty good. If you know, Clay Moore's doing a Pitt statue here that you can order. Looks pretty cool, I gotta say. It's pretty authentic to the artwork and the look of Pitt. So looks like real chains there. Not quite sure. Pretty awesome looking statue. Not that I'm into those, because I feel like they would just take up a lot of place. I don't have a huge home for any kind of stuff like this. You know, I got a few action figures and that's about it. But yeah, definitely some Keown style muscles here. Very cool. All right, well, there you go, guys. That's my review of Pitt number 5. If you have any thoughts, comments, or concerns, let me know in the comments box below. If you are a subscriber and you're still watching, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being there. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a second, and it really helps the channel, helps us grow, helps get us out there to other like-minded people who like the same kind of stuff we do, namely comic books. So everyone out there, thank you for watching, and have an awesome day. Like!
Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.